All right, thank you so much. So I'm going to invite our Director of Admissions and Records, Sonya Oviedo, to please come join us. She might look really familiar to you. She was previously a part of the Access and Outreach team. So please help me welcome Sonya.
So good to see all of you. I see a lot of new faces. A lot of faces that I used to work with all the time out in the field, so I'm so glad to see you guys all here. It's a great turnout. Now in my new role, I just want to put that out. You guys know me. Those of you who know me, feel free to reach out. I'm here to help you guys still, even though I'm not part of the Access and Outreach team. But okay, so I'm going to go through navigating admissions and placement process at MJC. So this might look familiar to you, those of you that are new. I know we have some new high school counselors. We have our steps to enroll. Of course, one of the placement steps is still in that, but like the dean mentioned to you, it's going to be all part of it's all part of the application. So first step would be to create your CCC account and apply to MJC. And just to let you guys know, all these hyperlinks are going to be available to you guys as well. So it will be emailed to you, like Angelica mentioned, probably like in the next week or so. So you guys will have access to these links that I'm talking about, because we don't have time to go too much in depth. So, and then your second step, you want to ensure that your students are applying for financial aid right away. And then your college orientation, high school placement, and questionnaire, and then your educational planning, and register for classes through self-service. So as you guys know, when you go into PiratesNet, once students click on registration, it will link them to what is our new platform, self-service, which can sometimes be a little confusing, but in my next slide here, the following, sorry. I have a little student guide on how to help with some of the steps there. So the MJC admission application for summer and fall application opens up October 1st of this year. If attending summer term, you want to make sure that when students are applying that they put the graduation date April 30th. That way when if the student decides to attend a summer class, they will not be recognized as a high school student. So we want to make sure that they're graduated. That's a very important step. And then for admissions application is a two-step process. The first process would be the CCC Apply account creation. It has gone through a revamp. I know one of the complaints when I was out there in the field is it's so hard to reset the passcode and get into the process, but they have done a facelift on it, if you will. And it's a little easier. I actually just went through the process myself, and it's a lot easier to help students reset the passwords and so forth. And then the next step would be the MJC application. And then it'll take students after the application. Sometimes students just kind of click out of there. Well, there's another screen that is called My Path, which gives the students, I'll show you in the next slide, it helps the students kind of remind them their steps through the whole process of becoming a student at MJC. It will take students about 24 to 48 hour processing time. Usually my team gets this process within 24 hours. They're very quick on processing the applications, and I know the Access and Outreach team, I know now the new name, I'm so used to Access and Outreach. They work with my department, and they'll let us know when they're out at your high schools. So as applications are being processed in your high school, we're processing on the back end. So they always communicate with us, let us know, so we get their W numbers and their emails sent to you guys right away. And then, of course, the dual enrollments for seniors, we want to make sure that they're reapplying after, maybe when the semester's coming to closer to an end. We want to make sure that if they are graduating, they want to reapply as a graduated student. So that's another issue with dual enrollment. Yes. So you would want them to have their regular 9 to 12 application, and then when they do, you want them to do a new application, and you want them to have the graduation date as April 30th for summer. Yes. So you want to make sure they do a summer application. And then, any questions regarding that, what I just gone over? So this is the screen that I mentioned that pops up after students submit their application. A lot of students will just click out of this. This is very helpful. It has different steps on there. However, the Access and Outreach, I'm so sorry I keep on saying that. They will actually help navigate your students through this process, but just in case, this is there for them as well as a tool, okay? And then some self-service updates. So there is something new, like it happened last year, within this last year. We have gone away from what was called ad codes. Who remembers ad codes? Awesome. So that has gone away, and now it is called the ad authorization. So what it is students will, if they're on the wait list, before we would tell the students, if you're on the wait list, email the instructor, they have room, they'll send you an ad code. Well, now what's going to happen is they could contact the instructor, email the instructor, you want to make sure they include their course, the course number, section number, their W number, and they want to ask the student if they have room in their course. Well, now what will happen is the instructor will just, from their self-service, they will go ahead and grant them access, the ad authorization access. And then the student, I have the hyperlink in here that helps you with the student guide. So I recommend you guys going through the student guide. It's a step-by-step with pictures in it, with directions in it, that helps you guys navigate this process for your students when registration time comes. But with it, once they get an ad authorization, on the next screen I'm going to show you, once they get an ad authorization, they're immediately going to get an email within 15 minutes and then to say that they have been granted ad authorization for a course. And then they'll be able to go into PirateSnet and they'll be able to register for that course. So it's just more of a streamlined process that we are using with self-service. And then, yes. So we're kind of talking about a two-step. What you're referring to is more like the wait list. So once students get access to that wait list, they have about a 5-day window to add the course once they receive the email. This is before the term begins. So before the term begins, they'll be utilizing the wait list and then receive an email, and then once they get that 5 days. Once that 5-day is up, then it expires, their permission expires. Okay, that's before the term. Now, when we talk about ad authorization, that's the start of the term, or within that window of census date where they're still able to add and drop courses. So when they use the ad author, it's after on the first day of the class or after. Okay, and then once they get the ad authorization from the instructor, that does not have a time frame window of like expiration. However, they have to add the course before the last day to register or drop their classes, which is census date. And they will view that on the class schedule. They will have their important dates for them. And I know there's a question back there.
I was just wondering what the question was that she asked.
Oh, okay. She asked if there was a time frame for students once they're given that access to register for the class. So for the ad author, that's when I explained, for the ad author, it's not going to expire. However, they have to be able to register before the census date. And then of course the drop date is before the term, and they have 5 days to do that. Any other questions regarding that? And then this is what it looks like in self-service. So students can view if they have already been given granted ad authorization. There's 2 ways they can view it. So when they go into self-service, they can see on the left-hand side in their schedule. Or they can see it in the petitions and waivers tab. So it's right on the the third tab to the top. And they can go ahead and register for the class in that screen as well. Okay. And like I said, I have the links to embedded in this PowerPoint for you guys to reference later. Now, AB 540, non-resident tuition exemption. This is self-certification. A student can submit AB 540 requests at any time during the semester. Students are eligible for refund of non-resident fees. Okay? And I'm sure you guys are, the link is in there as well. Now, for English and math placement, there's two ways you can do this. Students can self-report through high school data in their CCC Apply application, or they can use a self-guided placement tool, which can be found on our webpage under our testing. Again, I went ahead and put the link where it says placement methods to have more information on how students can place themselves, but through the application for your students, they'll automatically get that right away. And then some questions that when you do go through the application with the student, it's very important for them to answer correctly, because that's going to place them for their college level math or English would be their grade point average, highest grade completed in their English and math courses. So they definitely want to make sure they have their transcripts when they do go out to the high schools to do the workshops. Do I have any questions? Yes.
For the dual enrollment students with the self-placement, some of our kids, for example, if they're a freshman doing dual enrollment, they don't really have any information as far as English or math to put into the application as far as placement goes. So do dual enrollment students need to use the self-guided placement as far as that goes?
You know, when they reapply, so they're still going to reapply after their
No, this is when they're in high school,
Well,
taking
they're
the
in high
dual
school.
enrollment
There's-
classes.
yes, yeah, they'll use their GPA total.
But if
So-
they're freshmen, they don't have a GPA total.
I don't think it asked that
junior
question for freshmen.
Okay, so we have our dual enrollment expert back there.
For freshmen only, I don't think it asked.
So
So
then
she
do they
says if she doesn't believe in the application, then it asks that for 9 through 12.
Into another bracket.
But it won't let them take English 101 without some things. And we do have freshmen that are ready to take it.
I would have to look at the application again, but I just completed it like a few.
So I can add a little bit of information to that. So we have on our website what we refer to as GPA tool. So we know that when your high school student that's in 9th grade is applying, they don't have all of that information to report out. So our GPA tool is intended for your dual enrollment students to use to determine the appropriate placement for them. So it'll ask them a series of questions based on where they're currently at academically, and that determines and produces a a placement for math and English. So although it produces a placement for math and English, that doesn't always mean that the students will satisfy the prerequisites for certain classes. And so I think I heard a moment ago the prerequisite challenge. So then we have a process for your students to go through. If they, even after going through the GPA tool, don't meet a prerequisite for a course, then they can challenge that. And that's something that we can help you through. So if we're working with you in the high school to get your students in an English 101, for example, then we would help you through that process, determine who's eligible and who's not, and then if they're not, we would support you through that prerequisite challenge process. And that's something that goes through our division office for approval. Yes?
Hi, I work at Sherlock Adult School, so I have students who sometimes left the high school diploma program and then they went the GED route. How do I help those students?
So we have a self-guided placement. So it's very similar to the GPA tool, but the series of questions are different. And so it's intended to meet that population of students as well. So then the idea is that we don't do placement testing anymore, we don't have remedial courses anymore, and then based on their past academic history, we determine an appropriate placement for the student. And everything is college transfer level courses.
And just for your reference, I did put the link to exactly what Angelica was explaining. It explains all that process under placement methods. Okay, and it does reference for high school, yes.
So when we're helping the student apply, because just, I helped a student the other day, that didn't pop up. Where does it show up? Do I have to go somewhere else to help her with that?
So if we're not able to determine a placement from the application, they immediately get another notification to their email, student and preferred email, so the one that they use in the application, and it'll let them know that this is your placement for English or math, and whichever one we can't determine, they are guided to complete the self-guided placement. So it is something that we do send out notifications on, but then we're, again, working on our overall process on how we deliver that information to students, but right now, it requires some work on their end to check their email to make sure that they have the right placement.
And if you're helping a student and you just want to go directly to it, you could just, from our website, you could search testing, and then it would bring you up to the link that I embedded in this PowerPoint. I think believe there was one more question.
Correct, I think you need your W number to sign in so that it tags it.
It doesn't, so we have single sign-on, so it's the student's email address, so once they use single sign-on the one time, it automatically authenticates them for any platform that they use on campus.
But they have to sign in because it attaches.
Yes,
Yeah, and then
at
it
least
goes
once,
to
right.
their testing summary, and then it's inside of their pirates.
Yep. Yep.
So it's so important when they do apply that you have them look for that email that gets generated and sent out to them under YCCD to create their student email. There's a question.
Yeah, you want the mic? No, I'm good. Just about the kids all taking the transfer level courses now, like for example, math, if they place in math 101, when you look at the course description, it still says 89 and 90 as a prerequisite, but that's not the case anymore, correct?
Correct, that's not the case anymore, and that's a good question. And so there's some curricular process that we have to go through on campus and through just different governance processes to remove those, but you're right, they don't need that.
Okay, just double check.
Yeah, good question.
Has the process for unaccompanied students changed for them to apply or updated?
So it has not yet, and I think I've mentioned in the past that it's something that's being worked on, and I know that that's one of the things that's an active project right now to eliminate the issuing of the 800 number process that MJC uses. So the student sees that they successfully submitted the application, but then we make them jump through some hoops on our end, and so we're working on eliminating those hoops. So I'm super hopeful that that's something that has gained enough traction and prioritized as a project on campus and that it should be taken care of soon.
Now, what was back there?
Oh, they already have.
Oh, okay, so, yes.
To piggyback off that, so for now, when we have students like on our workshops, we have 1,000 students. I know in the past, those students don't submit your application. But now, last year was yes, submit your application in order for us to process it. So what should the direction be for those students that had a lot of confusion with that last year?
Okay, so the student should submit their application, let them finish the process, and then you will receive a notification from her office, either phone call or email, to work with your student just to verify their identity, and then it gets processed from there. So we process the application, but we put a hold on their record just to ensure that we're validating or verifying the student's identity. So then if our team is out in the high school as the MJC representative, we're verifying and validating that information then, so there shouldn't be any issues. And then the outreach and community partnerships team will work with Sonia's office to ensure that your students don't have issues.
My team has liaisons connected with Access and Outreach and Dual Enrollment. So if that happens, otherwise to help you a lot with that situation. So continue that process. You have a student has 800 number, we're there, we're able to verify, and then they'll contact one of our liaisons to get that application processed.
So the student will be contacted or the high school will be contacted?
If we're out at your high school, we'll work with you and take care of it. But if the student does it all on their own, they'll get a phone call.
The student.
Yes.
I remember over last year, just an example, I had multiple students, they got the email, and I remember we used to work, the student would get the W number, but this last year was, they got the email, but they had to
So now what we're doing is we are processing that application, so we're not stopping the application from being processed. So the student applies, they leave their SSN blank, the application gets processed, they receive all of the same notifications as if a number or I-10 was included, and then we do put a hold on the student's record, so we're not holding up the application, but we just put a hold so that we can verify their identity before they start applying for financial aid and registering for classes and things like that. Yes?
You said the student would get a phone call at where in that process would they get a phone call?
We'll send them an email. We're probably talking about phone call over here with the high schools when you're working with your liaison. The specialist will go ahead and give us a call or send us communication on getting that application, the application process as with the 800 number for now until we dismantle that or we figure out something else to work a little more streamlined process.
So sometime after the application has been processed, they will receive an email requesting to verify their results.
Yes, and that's usually done within 24 hours, 24 to 40 hours, but my team's really fast, so we usually get it done. So. Any other questions?
Is there any difference in this process if the student is planning to go directly to the certification process, like the program for well-being or auto insurance or anything? You have a lot of state certification programs. And so they still have to do master's or placement, but they don't want to get an associate degree or just want to get a certification. Are there differences in this process at all here?
Not in the admission enrollment process, it's the same. Any other questions? Okay, well thank you guys so much for your time. I will hand it over to Nick. Okay, before I invite up yes, thank you Sonya. Before I invite up our Director of Financial Aid, I wanted to do a quick commercial update about some changes that are happening at MJC. And so during the pandemic, our board of our district made a decision to wipe out student debt. And so we had students that had rolling debt that didn't get paid, and so that debt was wiped out. And then immediately after, we started offering what we call Free for Me, or a free tuition campaign. So in spring, tuition was free. Summer was not free, but this fall semester, tuition is free again to your students. So we definitely encourage maybe you have some seniors that are starting MJC or continuing. It is free to those students. The caveat is that we are asking students to do the FAFSA. So in order to claim and qualify for that free tuition, students have to submit a FAFSA or CATA, and in the event that they don't qualify, then our financial aid office is actively reaching out and working with those students to resolve those situations to ensure that they still qualify for free tuition, okay? And as we continue forward and roll forward in the semesters, we are working on campus on how to help students keep their debt down, help students participate in all of the resources that we have available to them and for them to take advantage of. But one of the things that is being implemented for the spring 23 term, and that would start with our spring registration cycle, which is in October, is that if your students are carrying a previous balance, so let's say they owe a balance from summer, they'll be blocked from spring registration, okay? And so this is something that's new moving forward. So as we continue to come out and deliver services and we're working with your students or they're calling and following up with you, we're moving forward with, this was an old policy that we had in place that's being brought back, but we'll be blocking registration if students have a past due balance, okay? And so in addition to that, we're also implementing drop for non-payment. And so during COVID, we eliminated all of that
but it's a policy that's being reinstituted. So then if your students were able to register for classes and they then now accrued a balance for that new registration cycle, that has to either be paid, they have to participate in a payment plan, or they need to, sign up and qualify for financial aid. But if they don't have one of those, if they don't meet one of those criteria or participate in one of those items that we're making available, then they will be dropped from their spring classes. And so this is our new process ongoing moving forward. I saw this gentleman's hand and then you in the back.
So how does that work for AB19 students? I mean, if they haven't paid yet, what's the process for them not being dropped?
So students that will have pending financial aid will be protected. So that's going to fall under being eligible for financial aid.
Okay, so if our students fill out the FAFSA and they don't enroll in summer classes, they just enroll in fall and spring, then they will still get free tuition, right? There will be nothing that they have to pay.
They'll get free tuition for fall only.
Oh.
So free tuition is a semester by semester program that MJC has been offering. It's not an academic year. So fall 22 is the last year that we're offering free tuition. So we have the FAFSA open now, right? The new cycle that's open. Currently, they need to submit that FAFSA to qualify for fall.
So our students who've been getting free tuition who do not qualify for financial aid.
They have to continue to reapply for the new year.
Right, so when they apply in October.
Right.
For the 2022-23 or school year, right? When they fill that out in October, will that grant them that year of free tuition?
So are we talking about a free tuition campaign or AB19?
AB19.
So that will protect them, yes, yes. And it looks like Amanda has something she wants to add.
Dual enrollment continues to get free tuition for their students, is that correct?
Yes.
How about the fees, the student fees?
The student fees for the free tuition campaign are being covered. If the student does the CCPG waiver, that does not cover the student fees. So they would need to apply for financial aid, right, like a FAFSA, CATA, to cover those student fees. So the students would still be responsible for the student fees. If they owe student fees, they will still be blocked from registration. And then at the start of the term, if they still only owe student fees, they would be dropped.
It goes back to like way old school.
Yes.
You're going back.
Yeah.
It's just you've got two things. There was free tuition, free campaign. I think people get confused with the differences.
Right. But yes, we are going back to pre-COVID, pre-pandemic policies on being dropped from classes and being blocked from registration. I see a hand over here and then over here.
Differentiating between free tuition and California Promise. If I'm understanding correctly, California Promise, you pay up front, you take a refund as long as you're full-time in each day, and free tuition doesn't matter, it doesn't matter if there's something else. I feel like
So I'm gonna let Aurelia talk more about that, but in essence, yes, our free tuition campaign is not the same as a California Promise. That is completely different. Okay, I saw a hand and then you're next. For fall only, correct. And then moving forward, dual enrollment students are responsible for their fees, yes.
What was that question?
The question was, are dual enrollment students' fees waived? Student fees for fall they are because of the MJC Free for Me campaign. But moving forward beyond fall 22, dual enrollment students are again responsible for their student fees and will need to pay those or they will be blocked from registration.